So yeah, with that being said, you want to move over to the Gina Carano topic.
Let's do it.
Oh boy, I'm nervous for this one. So why don't you start us off, Aiden? What are your just quick thoughts on this whole thing?
Right. So I saw because all of this happened, I think, between Wednesday and yesterday. And I first I was not paying attention to all the news and everything. I actually learned about it from Paul because he made a TikTok about it.
That's right. Yes.
But it's no, it's interesting. I personally think whenever anything like that happens, I think it's always good to it's a hard decision to make, but I think when an actor is spreading things that are obviously bad, they're saying poor stuff on the internet, they're saying bad things. I think it's not good to keep them involved in a franchise that's because then it becomes like a face of that the actor who's playing a role that young people are watching, people who look up to. You don't want to have someone who's spewing out these negative comments on the internet and these remarks. And I think that's happened a couple of times, and I don't know. I know there's always huge controversies because where is the line between the actor and then the character that they play? But I think at some point when there's an actor who has these certain ideas and stuff, it kind of then influences the rest of the production, and I think it can kind of get messy very fast. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Okay, to put it very simply, should she have been fired? Yes. Now, this has been going on for, I believe, September, where she was spreading not like COVID's not real theories, but just kind of some casual, anti-COVID things, which Twitter doesn't completely come down on as they probably should, unlike YouTube really comes down on that stuff. So just that kind of got her attention. People are making her out to be like she never wears a mask, and she just kind of questions stuff, which some people take really strongly. And then it kind of got into some more just kind of childish stuff where she was making fun of pronouns. She changed her bio to beep boop bop just because she can. Just kind of really silly juvenile stuff like that. And then it all kind of culminated into yesterday now 2 days ago, where she compared being a conservative to being a Jew in Nazi Germany. That should get you fired, just quite simply.
No, for sure.
Not cancel culture, it's consequences. This is where, and people who want to compare this to James Gunn, that's not a good comparison at all. James Gunn, they went back in time, found tweets and jokes from 10 years ago that he would never say today because he's smart enough to know that he would get canceled. They went back, found those jokes, and then canceled him today. Not the same thing. She's actively doing this, and it's almost like a little game for her.
Dude, for sure, yeah.
But one final note, then I'll pass it over to you. The one thing that I agree with, the more, fandom menace part of Star Wars, and God, I hate this. This is getting political. I'm a progressive. I don't like Gina Carano, but I don't agree with her politics. That's not a reason for firing. Her comments are a reason for firing. But looking at the right-leaning side of the Star Wars fandom, their main argument is why aren't people on the left getting called out for that? And I completely agree. I cannot tell you how many neoliberals on Twitter say some of the most horrific, just dumb, childish stuff. I wish they were held accountable. Unfortunately, they're not. So that's just unfortunate. It really is. I wish they were. But just looking at this case by itself, I'm glad she was fired. And I wish the more extreme neoliberal side of the spectrum, I wish they were held accountable too. And I don't think they ever will be. So that's unfortunate. So I understand the frustration on both sides. Okay, that's my TED Talk.
I think, there's a lot to break down. And I think I'll totally agree with you. I'm for sure more liberal and more progressive. And I think, but at the same time, there's going to be people who are radical on either side, and you got to find a way to hold everyone accountable just so there can be a happy medium, because people are going to be so dramatic about either way. I just feel like, I can understand, I guess, the other side's opinion on this, but in this situation, there's no question about it. She should be fired. And that's, I think, again, though, going back into cancel culture, I think I've never really understood cancel culture. I mean, I get where people are coming from, but I feel like it does more harm than good. I think, she's fired. There's no reason to then make this into a huge thing. I think I don't know. It's a hard thing, but I think she was fired. They did the right thing. I think cancel culture just sometimes, I don't know, becomes something that it isn't. It's designed to just create all this added drama, and it almost becomes this form of political just entertainment. It's less about this person did something bad. It's like, we're going to monopolize on this person to, do all this stuff. And it takes away from that. So I think they did the right thing. I think she 100% needed to be fired. And like you said, it was a culmination of everything with all the stuff that she had been putting out. And then, Wednesday was just for sure the last straw. And I think that's for sure a great call on Disney's part. So
Yes, and a couple other things. There are people on the right who still work at Disney. Chris Pratt is a conservative, from what I'm aware of,
for
and
sure,
he
yeah,
keeps his mouth shut. He doesn't say
yeah,
anything hateful. He doesn't, poke fights with, you know, the non-binary community. He doesn't change his bio to beep boop bop, and he doesn't get fired. It's as
yeah.
simple as that. It really is. And when people on Twitter tried to come down on him, all of his castmates supported him. So it's really just, you got to take this as a case by case thing.
Right, because it's
So
like you can't like just say, okay, well, anyone who's more right leaning, we're just going to cancel you off of Disney forever. It's
yeah, and I
about
don't
just
want that.
respecting
Yeah,
everyone's viewpoints. It's about just
exactly.
kind of, well, like you said, Chris Pratt. He's I never really knew exactly where he stood on politics and stuff because he's not out there screaming his viewpoints in everyone's faces.
It-
Because at some point, actors, I feel like, who feel very strongly about stuff, they use their fame and all they do is just give you their opinions on everything, and they all they do is just use their platform. And you can use your platform for amazing things, but when it gets
yes.
out of hand, it can be catastrophic. So I think no, like you said, Chris Pratt is a great example of someone who's more right leaning but also just is respectful of everyone, which is great.
Respectful.
So
He gave
for
a
sure.
great speech at a Teen Choice Award where we
Yes.
talked about God. He was just very respectful. It's like, you can be respectful and disagree
Oh,
with
for
me,
sure.
and yeah. So it's a really touchy subject, but I absolutely understand the frustration on both sides, because I don't. I'm not like so many young people say. I don't align with any parties. I have my views. I don't like either party. Where was I going to go with this? Oh yeah, so the frustration that the right side of the Star Wars community has, I see that as well, because I see these tweets that people who work at Lucasfilm make, and I'm like, that's gross. That's just gross stuff, and I should be held accountable on both sides. Unfortunately, it's not, and that's something that is always going to happen. But looking
Yeah.
at this case by itself, I'm happy she's fired.
Yeah.
So let's take some questions, and then
For
let's
sure.
just be done with this, because I don't like this. Um, Gavin says, "Yo, I appreciate that."
What's up?
I'm gonna say something like, "This is firing stuff from social media posts that happened today. It makes sense." Yes, yeah. If it's
Yeah.
happening now, and she kept poking the beehive, like, I'm sure the fans were upset with her. I'm sure Kathleen Kennedy and everybody else was like, "Stop it," and she
let's
wasn't. So
let's talk about this.
yes,
Yeah, that's what are your opinions on that?
okay. I have not read them,
Mhm.
so I want to make that very clear. I've heard they were gross. I heard he was
Yeah.
fired, and I
Mhm.
have not actually read the statements.
Yeah.
I find it bizarre. I'm not sure what exactly he said, so I don't want to say too much. I mean, if he's, saying something like white people are superior, then fire him. But I think he was just making really edgy, dumb jokes. Um, which, I mean, on a show that's all about forgiveness and, something that happened years ago, I don't understand. That seems more like a James Gunn cancel culture kind of situation. Um,
Right. I think there's people
I
out
need
there
to,
who
so
there's like people who are just trying to dig up everything just to bring people down. And I think no, I read through all that stuff when that came out, and I was reading through his old tweets, and I think they were for sure definitely not appropriate for today's day and age. But I think there is something to be said, I guess, a little bit about, stuff that's old and, how someone could change throughout the years. But I think all in all, they make the right choices when they remove people off shows, because you just can't really spread that kind of vibes like throughout stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know.
definitely. And
Yeah,
also, I just want to say, when it comes to like Holocaust comparisons, I think they're dumb all across the
yeah,
board.
yeah,
Nothing in America is close to the Holocaust. So I don't like it when people compare Trump to Hitler. I don't like when Gina Carano compares conservatives to Jews. I don't like it across the
exactly.
board. Pedro Pascal compared Trump to Hitler, and Trump supporter to Nazis, kind of. That was gross. Well, should he be fired? I don't know.
It's a
Unfortunately, that
hard,
kind of
yeah,
becomes par for the course, because if you're going to fire
right,
him, fire almost every liberal in Hollywood.
right. But it's just so you can't compare that. Like that's not appropriate. That's not something you should be doing, because it's just you can't do that.
You
It's
can't.
not. It's nowhere
I wish people
near.
could get that in their head,
Yeah.
but it's a very, very touchy subject. So
Oh yeah,
for like the third time, I understand the frustration on both sides,
for
absolutely,
sure.
because in a way, not completely. I'm kind of on both sides, because I
Yeah.
see. I recommend, if you guys are watching this on the replay or those in the chat right now, check out Sean Chandler's take on this, because he probably has the best take on this whole thing. Very
That's
reasonable, very level-headed. He always is. So, um, yeah, he's great. So definitely check out his thing on that. Gavin says cancel culture can be really annoying, but yeah, he
for
should be
sure.
fired. Absolutely agree, and I don't see this as an example of cancel culture, but agree and agree. Uh, you know, we all probably will be one day. So we just got to make content while we can.
For sure.
Any final thoughts, and then we can get away from this monstrosity.
Not a lot of final thoughts. I think it's just, it's definitely a tricky line to navigate. Like, I'll agree with you. I think it's just, I can see both sides of the argument, but I think in this situation, without getting into every single cancel culture situation on the internet, I think this situation, she should have been fired without a doubt. But yeah,